Have you ever wondered why you reacted the way that you did in a stressful or triggering moment? Maybe you had a big explosion, you popped off, you said something that you normally wouldn't say, or you completely shut down and wish that you would have said something. And later you're wondering, what happened? Well, today we're going to make that make sense. I'm going to go over with you the trauma brain hand model by Dr. Dan Siegel to help you understand why our brains and our bodies react the way that they do sometimes without giving us time to think about it. So here we go. Here is our brain hand model. We're going to talk about this in just a couple parts. So first of all, we have the downstairs brain, often called or referred to as the child part of your brain. And then you have the upstairs brain. So we'll talk about the downstairs brain first. The child part of your brain is there since the day that you were born. This is where your five senses are housed and it sends signals down to your body. You have the limbic system, which is where your amygdala is. The amygdala is the emotional part of your brain. This is where your survival mode lives with a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. It's the primal part of your brain that addresses different needs like hunger or your drive for intimacy. The upstairs part of your brain, often referred to as the parent part of the brain that helps the child brain, right? The parent part of the brain up here, this is where your prefrontal cortex is, or the part of your brain that handles logic and reasoning. A plus B equals C, right? We're going to be able to make sense of things using the prefrontal cortex piece of our brain. So together, these make up a healthy functioning brain. However, if you are someone that has had chronic stress or trauma, your brain can function a little bit differently. So basically in those stressful moments or continuous moments, your brain will start to function in a way as what Dr. Dan Siegel calls as lid flipping or flipping your lid. What happens here is that the blood is actually leaving the prefrontal cortex part of your brain and flooding the lower part of your brain and basically hijacking your body with the amygdala response of the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So this is an automatic response. Your body is taking in from those five senses and looking at the environment and going, am I safe? What, am I in danger? How do I need to respond here? Now, more than likely, you're going to respond in a way that you have done over and over and over again. So your brain is looking for what is familiar, right? So sometimes in this moment, if we're in this state of flipping the lid, then you may be responding to something in that moment that doesn't feel safe, that feels like a threat. Or because our brains look for what is familiar, you could be responding to something that feels familiar and makes you think that something from the past is happening again in the present. So what this does for us is really lets us have empathy and compassion, understanding for ourselves and how we react sometimes, or maybe even a partner, a friend, a family member, someone else is reacting in a different way and we're thinking, why did they do that? So hopefully this helps that make sense. Now, obviously for someone that might be in this state where their brain is stuck in hypervigilance, basically they're constantly scanning, constantly looking for threat because they have learned, right, through this environment maybe they've been in or experiences they've had to stay in this state of constantly searching and reacting to perceived or real threat. So what we want to do in that point here now to move forward, to go back from this state, right, to being in a more calm state to be able to respond versus react, is first being able to recognize our body's reaction, what's happening in that moment when we are in the state of feeling like we're flipping our lid, right? So maybe it is noticing your chest is getting tense. Your breath is shorter, you're feeling flustered or frustrated, irritated. Just being able to recognize and name that those things are happening allows you to take a minute to pause and give yourself a moment to be able to come back into the present moment of actually what's happening versus being reactive or being triggered from threats that may not really be as big of a threat as it feels like at the time. So I hope this helps. I hope it gives you a little insight. My name's Kendall. I'm a trauma-informed Christian life and relationship coach, and I help women and couples go from silently stuck to living peacefully restored. Hope you follow along for more.